neighbors, tell all your friends. It's the answers you need to know. It's the Wyatt Sharp Show.
Okay, ready when you are, sir.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Today, Ontario's Minister of Education, Stephen Lecce, is joining me. Hello, Minister, and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Wyatt. Appreciate it.
So my first question is, why did you get involved in politics, and why did you want to run for MPP?
Well, I first got involved in politics when I was about 12 or 13 years old. I wasn't from a political family. My parents, immigrants. I wasn't raised talking about it at the dinner table. But I really thought that it was important young people had a voice. And I think you've discovered that yourself. And I think we need more young people, more Wyatts out there that are ready to stand up for what they believe. But I think for me, it was about ensuring the next generation was heard. And I thought government sometimes, across the political parties, they just weren't listening to us. Housing affordability got out of control, the cost of tuition, the ability to get a good job, a good paying job. These things became almost like sort of distant hope and aspirations for a lot of young people that only a generation ago, like my parents, if you worked hard, you were able to sort of retire with dignity and have a decent life. So I wanted to restore that. And that's why I ran. And I'm very fortunate to have been elected in a community I was raised in for about 31, 32 of my 33, 34 years. And I really enjoyed every moment of it.
Yeah, for sure. So my next question is, what is kind of the daily routine of the education minister, and what does a day as education minister look like?
I think every day can change. I think really the requirement of being a minister of education and a parliamentarian, I think, is being able to pivot on the fly, being able to adjust the circumstance. Much of my day is consulting with various stakeholders, voices, parents, students, most especially. I think they are the center of why the Ministry of Education exists. I really believe in empowering their voices, your voice. I think often sometimes was sidelined by some of the other voices in the system. So I think really strengthening the parent and student voice in the process is what I do a lot of, as well as, just critical work in areas of skilled trades and new math curriculum, working with job creators, people who understand what it takes to get a job, create a job, to recognize what's the curriculum we need to build from financial literacy to STEM education. So a lot of it is listening to experts. Especially during COVID, Wyatt, as you'd appreciate, I'm talking to a lot of doctors, a lot of medical experts about how to maintain the safety of schools. And I'm very proud of what we're doing in this province by keeping schools open and keeping them safe fundamentally. And that's priority number one.
Yeah, no, for sure. So my next question is, many people, including students, I know there's many students in my school as well that are concerned about schools closing down again. So what realistically do you think, if there is a third wave, will schools close down again?
Well, we want to keep schools open. We know, we've heard loud and clear from parents, from students, from pediatricians, and some of the best hospitals like Sick Kids. Look, we've got to do everything humanly possible to keep these schools open. Nothing matters more, and I'm on your side in this respect. Look, we often face opposition, as you can appreciate. Back in September, there were forces out there, and I'm referring to the teacher unions, that didn't want us to open at all. Then they wanted us to close in the fall, and then they wanted us to not open in January for kids with special education needs. So, look, we may be on different sides of the debate here, but I think for us, the voice that has been heard so clearly is from working parents, from the kids, from the student leaders themselves, young people like yourself and others. I just want to be able to go to school every day. And so we're going to keep working hard to do that. How we do that, yes, in part requires a very strong, comprehensive health and safety protocol. We have that in Ontario. There's no province that matches Ontario in that respect. We're light years ahead. But of course, as you can appreciate, the cases that come into our schools, they're coming from the community. So we still have to go back to the fundamentals. The primary principle here is let's work hard to avoid cases or avoid the spread of COVID in the community. By doing so, by continuing to follow the rules, we really help limit the spread in our schools. And that's really what we're trying to do. So really encouraging folks to continue to do their part. And by doing so, we keep our schools open, we protect our seniors, all the things I know matter to a lot of young people out there. And I think it's all citizens of Ontario.
Yeah, no, for sure. So my next question is on the new math curriculum. So I know personally now, I'm learning how to code with a program called Scratch. We do it once a week, and we learn how to make stories and stuff. And so, why did your ministry feel that coding was a necessary piece to implement into the math curriculum?
Because the last time the math curriculum was updated was 2005. I don't mean to be bold here, but what year were you born, Wyatt?
2009.
So before you were born, the curriculum had still not been updated. I mean, YouTube, which we take for granted, didn't exist in 2005. The problem I think we have in Ontario, especially this province, is our curriculum is not aligned with the jobs, the skills, the requirements that I think we need when we exit education and get into the workforce. There's just a disconnect between what we learn in the classroom often and what we need in the workforce. And so my mission in this ministry is very much about empowering young people with the skills that they need to get a good job, to pursue post-secondary education. So when it comes to fundamentals of coding, of financial literacy, of data management, and these are, I would argue, fundamental knowledge that you're going to need to be competitive in the workforce. And I want to make sure that when you graduate, when every student graduates, you have a competitive advantage. You're able to get a job on your merits because what you learned in school was very much aligned with the needs of the job market. And so I just think it's frustrating, as a younger person, not the youngest person on this interview, but a younger person in government, that we still have twice the rate of youth unemployment, twice the rate of employment for young people. That's unacceptable in such a prosperous country as Canada. I want young people to continue to have the ambition in their heart to work hard and achieve their potential. And part of that comes to getting a good education, but also to applying that knowledge when you exit. And I think that's really what that change was about. It's also about positioning Ontario as a global leader in STEM education. And I think we really can uniquely position Ontario as a pioneering force for STEM learning for young girls and boys in the province. I think it's exciting.
Yeah, no, for sure. So my next question is, since September of 2020, there has been 10,052 confirmed cases of COVID in schools and 3,000 confirmed cases in licensed childcare facilities. So where is the provincial government at in terms of working to vaccinate kids, and is there any info on that?
Yeah. Well, first off, the overwhelming majority, the chief medical officer of health has said, I think well over 90 to 95% of cases were from the community, which demonstrates that schools have been safe. I mean, 99% of schools today, while we have all these variants of concerns out there, are open. And that's amazing. That's because of the hard work of teachers, of staff, of students, of the parents, everyone sacrificing doing their part. I'm very proud of our system in Ontario. But yes, vaccines, especially on a critical week where we just launched the provincial portal, we can vaccinate children as young as 16. There's about 200 plus thousand students in high school that are eligible for the Pfizer vaccine. That's 16, 17, 18. That's fine. But right now, as we speak, some of the big pharmaceutical companies are looking at vaccines, specifically clinical trials for the vaccines for younger people, particularly, as you mentioned, for students in education, younger high school students, and well below that. That is exciting. It's promising. We understand that there could be developments on this, some finality to this by the end of the year. And we really think it's important the federal government continues to work to procure, to actually purchase today, plan today for the procurement for the delivery of vaccines for young Canadians when it is approved by Health Canada, when it is safe. But we believe that could happen, and we really want to make sure that Ontario and Canada is leading, not the lagger when it comes to how we get our the vaccine doses countrywide, because Canada's 34, 35, 36 in the world. That's not an acceptable position, and we've made that known to the federal Liberal government. But I think with young people, we could be the leader. We really can if we start today. So I'm urging the federal government, sent them a letter recently just to say, look, let's make sure that we procure it, we have a plan in place to distribute it, and we continue to collaborate, because I think young people, those that want it, should be able to get it, and that's the intention of the province.
For sure, yeah, no. So, this isn't really related to your ministry portfolio, but you are a member of the Ontario government, and I haven't discussed this yet with any politicians on my podcast. So, um, there was something that came out that said that people were potentially getting blood clots from the AstraZeneca vaccine. AstraZeneca then put out a statement essentially denying that. But does it concern you that this report has came out?
Well, I have heard the report. I've also heard the medical community confirm, as I understand, that the AstraZeneca vaccine continues to be safe, which is why it continues to be administered in the province for individuals under the age of 64. I mean, look, at the end of the day, when it comes to the health and safety of people, especially of those that we love, we're not going to take a chance. When the best doctors look at the advice, confirm that those issues were unrelated, as I heard recent reports from this morning, it gives me confidence. And I know that if there's any uh, potential downfall, that our medical community and leaders will act quickly. But so far, when you look at our long-term care homes, for example, we've seen a dramatic reduction in mortality. As my own grandmother's in the long-term care home in this province, and she's in York Region. She got the vaccine, like the majority, like I think, as all long-term care residents have fundamentally, if they wanted one. It gives me a great deal of confidence that they're doing everything we can to protect our seniors, and that's really what's important. And the vaccine has helped to reduce that risk. That's an incredible decline and an improvement to safety. So to your point, we want to get it out to everyone eligible, everyone possible, 16 and up, and hopefully we can go well beyond that to those that want it, including for our young people.
Yeah, no, for sure. So you just mentioned about kind of vaccinating the eligible people. So as you mentioned before, in terms of when kids are supposed to get vaccinated for COVID, we know that it hasn't been approved for kids yet. But once it does become approved for kids, or if it becomes approved for kids, where will kids kind of sit in terms of getting vaccinated? Because we know it went from people in long-term care to then seniors. So where would kids kind of sit on that scale?
Yeah, well, all Canadians that want a vaccine will get a vaccine, by the early fall. I believe the federal government is committed to sort of September. We're well on track to getting everyone who wants a vaccine, providing them with that choice and providing them with the actual, shot in the arm, if you will, by the early fall. By the time we're hearing the approvals could happen for vaccines for young people, it probably is late 21, early 22. So we still have a bit of time. But my point is, to your thoughtful earlier question, is let's take the time now to plan. Let's not wait for it to happen and then scramble to order it and distribute it. Let's take the time today, the lessons learned from the vaccine for sort of adults, if you will, and build out a plan, set aside enough that we need, but even before Health Canada approves it. That's what the federal government and all governments did before their own health regulators approved the vaccine. So we can order it today. We can build a plan to get it out. And my intention would be to really work to get it out immediately after its approval by, in Canada's case, Health Canada. Hence why I want the feds to work on a plan today, so that we just don't waste time. I mean, especially as students will be back in class in September. At least that'll be, I think, a choice for many students. It'll be promising for their parents to know that, okay, we're going to send them back, but hopefully a couple months later they're able to get that vaccine. It just makes you as a young person and other parents, I think, feel a bit more confident about the way forward. So we're going to work around the clock to get it out once it gets approved.
Okay, so my next question is: there are a lot of mental health issues in schools with students, and so prior to the winter break, students kind of got a break from wearing masks when they were at recess. Now students do have to wear masks at recess, and now students in younger grades also have to wear masks, not just at recess, but when they're in class as well. So can you speak to this?
Well, I mean, what we ask school boards to do is just to make sure that students are distancing when they're outside. And when distancing can't be applied, like in some cases, you drive by a school and you see students playing tag, and they're tactile, they're touching each other and they're hugging each other. Well, look, if it can't be achieved, if for whatever reason we can't keep some reasonable distance, then I think what we've said to school boards is, look, use your discretion, but a mask can be asked to be used when distancing can't be applied. We want school boards to use their best discretion and teachers to do the same. We want students to get mask breaks. We've actually put that into the protocol to permit students the opportunity, to lift off their mask when they're outside and their distance. That's all a decision that will be made by the educators on the ground using their best judgment. We just, at the end of the day, for us, especially with these variants of concern, and as you can appreciate, sometimes these variants, they say have a higher rate, easier to spread amongst people. We just want to be cautious, and that's sort of the why that changed. At the end of the day, it's well, we allow teachers an element of discretion. If they see distancing being respected, then then it changes the requirements to impose the mask.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, so my next question is: there are a lot of concerns, as I just mentioned, about regarding the mental health of students in Ontario. So, what will the fall of 2021 look like if, let's say, students do start to get vaccinated before the fall of 2021 and before the start of next school year?
Well, what we've been told is the pharmaceuticals will not be approved, the clinical trials will not be done. So I don't see a scenario, at least based on what I've been told today, that students would be returning in September with the vaccine. But I think you're absolutely right. Students will be returning to school in September. That is exciting. I think a lot of students want to get back to some sense of normal. But we're still going to have health and safety protocols in place to make sure it's safe for the student and their family when they go home. And on mental health, I think you raise a really important point, because I think the pandemic has not been easy, right? I mean, it's been tough on everyone, young people especially, because you had to stay home last spring. Then over Christmas, it got a lot longer. And so it's just been one thing after another. And I mean, young leaders like yourself, I mean, everyone's just so resilient. We're all very proud of everything you've done, stepping up and standing out in the province. But I think September our goal is to make sure it has more stability. If students are able to return in class, it's in a safe environment with significant investments and supports for mental health, to talk about mental health in the classroom, to have more access to those individuals you can turn to within your school to support you. And that's really what's important, making sure that no student is waiting for service. And that's why we've stepped up in a major way the support for mental health. I've talked about it personally. My family has been afflicted by mental health and addictions. I've seen it firsthand. It's not, it's not always easy on people and on families. And that's why you need to make sure, I need to make sure as minister, that no child is left behind. No child is unable to get a support system if they need it. And that's why for context, we've more than doubled the funding for mental health in Ontario. And during the pandemic, we added another $40 million for mental health and special education, just because it is so important. And I think a lot of young people, I think culturally, societally, we're becoming more comfortable, why, to talk a bit about mental health. I mean, I think we've really come a long way. But I want young people to know that they can talk about it, they can seek support, and that the system, the schools, are going to be there for them.
Yeah, no, for sure. So my next question, or my final question for you today is: let's say all of a sudden tomorrow COVID cases started to rise, and we started to see the beginning of the third wave. Are schools and school boards ready for school to move back digitally again?
Absolutely. I'm very proud of what we have done in Ontario to create a digital platform at a high level, a gold standard of live Zoom style learning, where a student in a class for the entire day could pivot quickly. God forbid something happened, we had to pivot to online learning, to remote learning. We can do that in this province. And I'm proud to say that there are 9, while I wish it was a standard in Canada, we're the only province in the nation that can do that province-wide. We have almost 200,000 more tablets out, 10,000 homes connected to internet for low-income folks. We have hundreds of virtual principals. We've stood up virtual schools in this province, and we've trained our educators, as well as really improved the infrastructure for learning online. We did in Ontario, when you compare the last spring when we closed schools in the March, after March or just before March break, and you compare to the fall or the present, I really think it's fair to say it's been a massive improvement. improvement. I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of our system really stepping up and adjusting to the expectation of parents, which is, look, at the end of the day, for a young person like yourself, students deserve to learn. You deserve to have consistent access to your teacher. And you deserve to have a learning experience that's still dynamic, fun, allows people to interact, ask questions, challenge assumptions, speak with the teacher. And in this format, for a lot of students, it's better to do it in school, 100%. I get that. For some students, it's been amazing. But no matter what, when you're forced to stay home, this online remote learning is still better than being sent home with homework and sort of saying, talk to you in a couple of weeks. We need to set that standard. And so I really fought hard to defend it. And I'm going to keep working hard to improve it. I think it's really in the interest of young people that we continue to embrace and strengthen that remote learning experience, because you're right. You never know. I mean, if it's a lesson from the pandemic, Wyatt, it's be prepared, it's think ahead, and be ready to adjust and pivot on a moment's notice. And we've done that so many times in education. And I'm just grateful that we've got a government and a premier, with the premier's leadership, that cares deeply about young people and is prepared to invest, that we've continued to increase spending in education to support student success. We've, as you noted, a new curriculum. We eliminated seniority-based hiring, meaning the best teacher is being hired today at the front of your class. It's about making students the center of what we do. And I just think that's an important mission we're on. So we're going to keep going, and we're going to keep learning and keep improving and pushing the system in the interest of young people. But I'm just very grateful for all the things you're doing to introduce young people to democracy and politics. It's pretty awesome, and really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, no, thanks again very much for agreeing to come on, and it's been great talking with you.
Okay, have a great day.
You too.